Yeah.
Yeah, so there'll be stuff going on that you won't even hear, but you can kind of keep up with what's going on by that screen there.
Okay.
But it'll be like introduction to the show, all that stuff. Then I will step in and introduce you, and that'll be all audible for you. You'll do your first song, so you do Mercy, and after Mercy, you'll just finish, thanks or whatever you like to say, and then we'll go right into another sort of pre-record with commercials.
Okay.
I'll reintroduce you, and then the show
Back into it.
starts to roll.
Yeah. Heard.
Okay. What happens a lot of times, people forget, and they'll finish this first song
And then start going
and start
into the second
talking
one.
and start talking about that song. It's like you just have to finish it.
Yeah.
So
Heard.
anyway, so it's nice to have you here. We'll have
Yeah.
fun.
I think we will.
Yeah.
Sorry, man. You're good. Oh, you're good. Get up in your grill here.
Okay, go ahead and mark it.
Camera 3 or camera.
Is
Yeah.
everybody on the marker?
They are now.
Thank you.
Slating.
Well, hello, one and all. Glad to have you with us for Red Barn Radio. I'm Bradford Becker. We continue in our 22nd season of Red Barn Radio, and we welcome you tonight to show number 843. And our guest this evening for show number 843 is Jacob Perez. Jacob is a songwriter living in Cincinnati, Ohio, spending much of his childhood and teen years moving around the country, has formed this artist's voice in his songs. When the COVID-19 pandemic found Perez furloughed from his day job, the season of extra time proved the most fruitful creative period of his life thus far. The batch of songs written during this period became the core of his debut record, Get Well, released in March of 2022. Welcome, Jacob Perez, to Red Barn Radio.
Thanks for having me. Mercy never folds, mercy rolls the dice, mercy beats the house, and she hangs me out to dry. Mercy comes down on the loser's side sometimes. Mercy's heavy-handed, selfish and austere, leaves no room for questions, and little room for fear. She's swinging for the fences. Good God, that thing is out of here. Mercy is a barroom. Mercy knows your name. Mercy is a cold one at the end of a long day. She will always be there. She will always stay the same. Mercy is a mountain. Mercy is a ditch. Mercy is the wound and the bandage and the stitch. Mercy is the medicine, and I can barely stomach it. Mercy is the medicine, and I can barely stomach it. Thanks, y'all.
Good evening and welcome to Red Barn Radio. Wherever in the world you're listening, welcome to Roots Music Southern Style. Thanks to WEKU, Red Barn Radio's official radio partner, NPR for Central and Eastern Kentucky. Listen online at weku.org. Red Barn Radio is supported by Visit Lex, Lexington, Kentucky's Convention and Visitors Bureau. More information on what Lexington has to offer is at visitlex.com. LexArts, Lexington, Kentucky's premier cultural development, advocacy, and fundraising organization, working for the development of a strong and vibrant arts community as a means of enhancing the quality of life in Central Kentucky. Follow Red Barn Radio on Twitter and like us on Facebook. Here's the host of Red Barn Radio to tell us more about tonight's performers.
Tonight we present for you a solo performance by Cincinnati singer-songwriter Jacob Perez. Jacob's sound has evolved quickly over the past 3 years. He released his debut album in 2022, as I mentioned, and rather quickly followed it up with a 2023 release called Signs. He'll be touring more with songs from that album this year, and tonight he'll wet your whistle with a slew of tunes from both albums. Welcome, Jacob Perez, for the first time to Red Barn Radio.
Thanks so much for having me. Yeah, tonight I'll be playing a little bit from both records. This song is the title track from Get Well. You wouldn't say that I was unkind. I wouldn't call these years wasted time. I know where I picked up these habits of mine. Like father, like mother, like whiskey, like wine. Can't pull out the roots without killing the tree. Can't do a damn thing about what's killing me. We're all dying slow, we're all losing our leaves. Drop seeds in the ground, see what grows underneath. I'll give it up, you know I can't help it. What's growing up, feel a little selfish. You've got some nerve asking me to get well. So what the hell? I'll sober up, it's the best I can do. Pull weeds in my garden to make room for you. Won't you tie me down? All I need you to do is keep walking barefoot, I'm following through. I'll give it up, you know I can't help it. What's growing up, feel a little selfish. You've got some nerve asking me to get well. So what the hell? I wanna live without running away. Face up to the mountains that stand in my way. You make me feel like I might be okay. I'll break through the dirt, I don't care what it takes. Thanks, y'all. That should be a bullet piercing my chest. It's just the inevitable truth, I guess. Shame should be smoldering, burning my face. It might catch up with me in my future days. It might catch up with me in my future days. Left as a prophet, speaking in tongues. Returned as a vagrant, a prodigal son. Found and then lost, a ghost in the night. I ran from this town and forgot what it was like. I ran from this town and forgot what it was like. I'm standing knee-high in the flood. Forgive me for what I've left undone. bury something deep enough, you might just play dead. It's hard to raise grief over things you forget. Forget where you come from, forget who you are. Forget where you're going in your beat-up car. Forget where you're going in your beat-up car. I'm standing knee-high in the flood. Forgive me for what I've left undone. Burned every bridge. Was it something I said? It takes a flood to raise the dead. Swallowed a hard pill. Was it something you read? It takes a flood to raise the dead. It takes a flood to raise the dead. I'm standing knee-high in the flood. Forgive me for what I've left undone. Thanks, y'all. This next song is off my new record, Signs. It's called Rust. I woke up from a dream last night, omen of a reckoning tide. God bless the heart of a golden boy, 'cause he's all rust inside. Poison and ungrateful mouths, go ahead and spit me out. God bless the heart of a latchkey kid who knows how to go without. She whispered with an aching tongue, honest as the morning sun. The light of day is nobody's fool. There's nowhere I can run. I just couldn't sleep last night. Circles under hungry eyes. God bless the heart of a golden boy, 'cause he's all rust inside. Thanks, y'all. That song's how you know I'm from the South, because I use the whole God bless your heart thing, you know. This next one's called Lay of the Land. It has a lot to do with trying to be a creative person and carve out a living that way. I got the lay of the land, I got the list of demands. I ain't no company man, I got the lay of the land. I got the sweat of my brow, I got the why and the how, the where and what needs some shaking out. I got the sweat of my brow. If the money never comes, if the money never comes, if the money never comes, I got what I want. I got the color and sound, I got my feet on the ground. I got here and I got now, I got the color and sound. If the money never comes, if the money never comes, if the money never comes, I got what I want. I got the lay of the land, I got some dirt on my hands, I got some fat in the pan, I got the lay of the land, I got the lay of the land. Thanks, y'all.
All right. Geez, Jacob, those are some fine songs.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, beautiful.
Thank you.
Lot to think about and ponder, you know.
I'm
What-
literally right now thinking about the actual sweat of my brow. I don't know if I'm visibly sweaty on camera, but I'm sweating, man.
I'm only just seeing you like
Sweating
here.
bullets.
Are you really? Well, yeah. Doing so because you feel hot, or because you get that way when you perform?
It's probably a combo of like being under lights. I don't really sweat much when I perform. Sweat
Yeah.
more when I'm standing up, for sure. If I'm moving around, you know.
What you know, just thinking of that song "Lay of the Land." What you're fairly young, and you got started on this journey, at least as far as publishing music, and recording your songs around the time that you were about 20, right? 20,
Yeah.
21?
The first time I ever went into the studio, I think I was probably 20 years old.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, and so in the short time that is from then until now, what have you learned about the geography of the artistic life?
I mean, I've learned a couple things. I think the thing that's first and foremost for me is that I don't want to live any other kind of life. You know, I don't foresee a future for myself where I'm not writing songs, even if that's, you know, working a day job and just playing gigs on the weekend or whatever. I love writing songs and I love playing songs. I think the other thing that I've learned is that you can't put too much value on, I don't know, perception, I guess, from how you feel like people are receiving your stuff. I think that, like, it's really easy to get on, like, the internet and see someone who's, like, blowing up and be like, wow, I wish I was that person. And I think that, you know, there's just kind of a time and a place for everything. So I think for me, it's just like, just keep writing songs, man. Just keep getting out there, and, you know, don't get discouraged. It's really easy to in the din of just all the content that exists. But, you know.
Yeah, right.
Like I said, I don't want to live any other kind of life, really.
So then when you think about just keeping at it, it isn't for you necessarily toward the goal of having the algorithm working perfectly for you. It's more about having you work perfectly for you.
Yeah, it's more about living a life in kind of a sustainable way that makes sense for me. I'm just, you know, yeah, it's about being okay with myself. You know, no one else is going to give that to me, you know?
Yeah, true that. Why don't you talk a little bit about what brought you to this point? And now I'm thinking about the earlier years of your life when it sounds, if I'm not mistaken, it sounds like you did some travel as a young person, or that your family moved around a bit. Is that
we
on target?
Yeah, we were pretty, I don't know, we were pretty transient. Like my parents were both in the Army when I was little, and they got out so we didn't have to move every 2 years, and then we moved every 2 years my whole life. So, like, I did a year of high school. Each year of high school, I was in a different state. So just constantly moving around. And then, like, even got to the point where we were homeschooled. So at one point, my parents sold our house, and we lived out of an RV and just, like, traveled around, and every day was kind of like a field trip. So yeah, I mean, we did that for a few months at a time, and then would kind of come back and, like, settle somewhere for a little bit. And they've gone out and done that, you know, even since I've been gone. So yeah, I just grew up in a very, like, transient way.
Well, in a transient way, but also with creatives as parents.
Yeah, I think I get the flightiness of the artist from my parents for sure. I think, I don't know, my parents just, like, really love to have experiences and to see things, and placed much more of a value on, like, going out to see a national park than, you know, material possessions, which was good because, you know, no one tells you this when you're going into a creative life, but you're broke most of the time. So it's good to care about experiences instead of material things.
When you were growing up, and your parents were traveling around with you all, and it wasn't just you, right? You had siblings.
No, I'm one of five, and we have a pretty large age gap. So my oldest sister was already out of the house by the time we were kind of on the road. But it was me and my three younger siblings packed in a little RV, just enough beds for all of us in there, and not room for much else.
As a young person, did you feel like you wanted for things?
I don't think so. I mean, I'm not going to sit here and say that there weren't times where I was like, man, but I don't know, like, what 12-year-old kid wants to, like, go to school every day and just, like, sit in a classroom, you know? I felt like I got so much out of just being out and seeing things, and yeah, just like getting to put my hands on things and get my hands dirty outside, just like I think that it's good for a person.
Yeah. What kind of things did your parents teach you all to do as young people? Did you feel like you were developing some skills in your time outdoors that maybe other kids your age at that time weren't developing? Certainly you were having a body of experience that not too many kids that age had.
Yeah, I mean, as far as like learning things that other kids don't, I don't know. I mean, I just like learned to kind of be a problem solver. Like you'd be out on the road and have a flat tire, and it's just like, well, you just got to go out there and change your tire. There's stuff like that just like you got to kind of be self-sufficient, and especially when you're traveling around and you're not doing it with a whole lot of funds, you kind of find creative ways to solve problems, and then you just kind of learn to like be cool with what you've got,
Yeah.
Yeah.
Where in the country did you all decide to stay? And did you find yourself out at out in the national park and found that you really enjoyed that region and thought you might like to try to live there for a little bit? Is that sort of how it went?
It was a little bit more kind of, it was a little bit planned. Like there was some time we'd go out. And so like this pretty much saw every state on like the eastern side of the country. Like did New England for a little while. We spent a month up there and just kind of bounced around in the fall, and it was really cool. Did a lot of hiking.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, it was kind of the goal to see like all 50 states over the course of 2 years, and that didn't happen while I was living at home. But yeah, it was just, I think, more about just going out and collecting experiences. So we'd go to a national park, or we'd find museums. We'd do all kinds of tours, and yeah, it was kind of like as many like hands-on interesting things as we could find to do. Yeah.
That's great.
Yeah, it was
That
good.
is just great. All right, so then in the RV, was there music playing, and at what point in time did you start hearing some music and start thinking, this is deep in me?
I was so little when I got my first guitar, I don't really remember it. Like I was probably 4 or 5. I took lessons as a kid, and I don't know, I liked it. I think what I've been told is what sparked that in me is we were sitting in church, and I was like looking up on stage, and there was some dude playing a guitar and singing, and I was like, that looks like fun. I didn't know that was a thing you could do. I'd like to do that. And so my parents they got me a guitar, and I learned and stuck with it over time, and I played mostly like religious music through my whole childhood. Had a lot of like early exposure to like bluegrass music especially. And so I always thought that was the kind of thing that I'd do. And
how bluegrass? Where were you when you first heard bluegrass? Or wasn't it about where you were? Was it just about your dad, what your dad was playing in the speakers?
It was about we'd have these bands that these like family bands that would come through and play at the churches that I was going to, and they all played bluegrass music for whatever reason. There's like a whole circuit of these kind of family bands playing bluegrass.
Gospel.
Yeah, kind of like Southern gospel, bluegrass kind of. Yeah, it was really twangy, really earthy. Like a lot of just the whole stage would just be like littered with string instruments of all kinds, mandolins, banjos, and I don't know how many 6-year-old kids get to see somebody play a dobro on stage at just in the regular course of their life. But I just knew about all these instruments and these sounds, and I've kind of carried that early like love for kind of rootsy music with me really my whole life. So
A lot of harmony?
Oh yeah, dude. A lot of 3-4 part harmony. And it was like these family bands where like from a young age the kids were singing, and the kids would get up there, and I'm like, this 7-year-old singing a really sweet alto harmony on this song. It was cool, and I kind of like, I don't know if it was like the communal thing or like I was just really drawn to that whole kind of experience.
And you have a great voice and nice pitch. I mean, you strike the notes hard.
Thank you.
And it's
on my good days.
It's a great sound. And did you learn to do that would you say, in the church?
Yeah, I grew up singing hymns, and yeah, just like music was just kind of all around me in that sense. There was always music. There wasn't always like exposure to music that was going on. Like I didn't hear the Beatles until I was like almost 20 years old, which feels crazy to say, but you know, it's just a lot of popular music that went over my head when I was a little kid, and only have I recently come around to it. But yeah, I learned to sing in church. I learned to sing in hymns, and when I finally learned a couple cowboy chords and could like sing a song by myself, I would just like have kind of a monthly, they'd let me get up on stage and sing a song. And so I was just learning songs. And from the time I was like 6 or 7 was kind of performing on stage in front of people. So I was always kind of very comfortable with it, you know? Yeah. So that's where I learned to sing for sure.
Yeah. Were your, just out of curiosity, do you think your parents, if your parents were here and I asked them, were you trying to, or did you want to shelter Jacob and the kids from secular music? What would they say?
Yeah, I think it's kind of complicated because I think my parents came to religion later in life. They definitely had some roots in it, but like it wasn't until like early adulthood and they were having kids, and they just felt like it might be a good thing to like have kids in church. So yeah, that kind of just naturally came, I think, more from the outside influences in the church of just like how those communities felt about popular music. There's a lot of kind of people think rock and roll is the devil, and
sure,
there weren't any like record burnings when I was growing up, but I just no one had anything like I wasn't like hearing electric guitars in my young, like there was no drums in my church,
right?
You know, so it was strange, and then kind of it took me some time of like, and because I was really into music, I was seeking stuff out that was kind of like getting me into trouble, and I like not even like.
What do you mean getting you into trouble?
With the church authorities at large, but also like my just like kind of my parents were sort of like they weren't sure how they felt about it really. So I'd be listening to stuff that's like on like, I don't know, contemporary Christian radio. Like it's, you know, Christian music, but because it like had drums or like had a, you know, some guy like ripping a guitar solo, like people were like, oh, like that's not cool.
Oh,
like,
interesting.
Yeah, so it was really weird. So I was always early on kind of like ostracized from communities for being the kid that was like, it was like on one hand, people kind of rewarded my interest in like wanting to play songs in church. And then on the other hand, they were like, but not this stuff. Like,
oh, interesting.
There's this whole world of music that I wasn't really allowed to wade into.
So this was then a fundamentalist.
Yeah.
Sort of more.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, it was very
Christian.
like, they would describe themselves as fundamentalists
Sure.
when I was growing up. And I was like, I think that's become kind of a dirty word. But they were like, we are fundamentalists, and like, we're not ashamed of it, you know? So, so it wasn't until I got into my teen years and kind of started to move away from that world that I really, like, the whole world kind of opened up for me in terms of, like, I was discovering, like, I remember the first time I heard Springsteen, and it, like, blew my doors off. Like, I was like, this is, like, I put on...
like Nebraska, that album?
It was Born to Run, for the first time I ever listened to that record. Because I was always like an albums kid, because I'd buy CDs, and so like I always listened to music. When I sat down to listen to something, I'd want to listen to the whole thing. And so I was like, this record only has 8 songs on it. That's weird, you know? And then I listened to it, and I was like, my whole world was changed. Nebraska came later for me, and that's still like a touchstone. But yeah, it was funny kind of coming into that stuff from being really like, having it kind of closed off to me as a young kid, you know.
Was this a difficult time for you and your parents when you needed to make that break, or when you were ready to do that, were they ready to allow you to find your own path?
I would say my parents kind of grew along with me as I was the world was opening up to me. It was also opening up to them. Like we were kind of all, I think a lot of kids who kind of go through what I was going through, they're doing it in kind of defiance of their parents, and like they're butting heads because the parents are like stuck in their ways. I realized like at a very young age, like as a teenager, that like my parents are just people and they didn't really know anything, and they were also figuring things out. So we were all kind of growing together. And so as I was finding my way in the world, I feel like I had my parents at my back kind of supporting me, and that was probably a huge reason why I feel like I can do what I'm doing, you know?
Yeah. Wow, I love that. It's great. Sounds like a really neat family and a rich childhood you had.
Yeah.
We have Jacob Perez on Red Barn Radio tonight, and having such a nice time chatting with Jacob, and there's some more music now to be had. So welcome back, Jacob Perez.
So last year I put out this record called Signs, and it had a lot to do with being like a transient kid. So this is the title track from that. No hand-me-downs, no true hometown, no landmarks to recall, no family, friends, no bitter ends. It all just rolls off. Well, I don't carry much around. Nothing here is gonna tie me down, and I try to ignore the signs, so there's no going back. Just a scared kid, I ran and hid. I ain't sorry about that. Oh, my blood, you've had enough. Ain't no bridge I won't burn. Just a punk kid talking. I guess I'll never learn. Or don't get used to me around. Nothing here is gonna tie me down, and I try to ignore the signs, so there's no going back. Just a scared kid, I ran and hid. I ain't sorry about that. Don't get used to me around. Nothing here is gonna tie me down, and I try to ignore the signs, so there's no going back. Just a scared kid, I ran and hid. I ain't sorry about that. Thanks, y'all. This next song is called Blacktop. When I was a kid, I would go out and I'd play pickup basketball at this little park down the street from my house, and it'd be like 102 degrees outside, and I'd be out there and it's just hot and like sweltering, and I don't know, I was thinking about, I'd go out and do that every day and like get heat stroke and go home and like drink water and come back and do it again. Shadows cast afternoon, sun-drawn lines between the truth and the feeling and the shape, the kind of heat that makes you shake. Sweat it out, drink it down, hot black top, the common ground. We were kids, nothing less, folding chairs out on the edge. It was July and I was hungry, started walking home in the sunny evening, laying low. Kind of darkness comes on slow. Free throw line rituals, 2 breaths, lungs full, close to something I ain't had since back before these knees were bad. Early morning concrete prayers, was hoping God might meet me there, waiting on the sun to break, to warm the air just for my sake. Thanks, y'all. This next song is it's called Living Honest, and it is the first song that I ever remember writing that I was like, I could probably play this in front of people, and I'm pleased that I still feel like I can play it. I wonder what it's like to call it even, underneath the weight of wrong believing, the heaviness a yoke upon my shoulders grows heavier each year as I grow older. Give a little thought and understanding. I know your heart is oftentimes demanding. I labor at the plow to yield a harvest. I labor for the sake of living honest. I callous these hands to be your man, to give you my love. However I can, I climb these walls, I hop the fence, just like I did when we were kids. Gave a damn for me, that's saying something. When your love was strong, I took off running. Underneath my light-hearted demeanor laid a cynic in the ashes of a dreamer. I callous these hands to be your man, to give you my love. However I can, just like I did when we were kids. You gave me something steady I could stand on. Gave me flesh and blood that I could put my hands on. You drank me down like wine at that old table. Would you love me hard and fast as you are able? I callous these hands to be your man, to give you my love however I can. I climb these walls, I hop the fence, just like I did when we were kids. Thanks, y'all.
We've got lots more music and conversation with Jacob Perez, but I do want to take a moment to remind listeners that Red Barn live streams, both tonight's and on any old Wednesday, remain available online for you to view at your convenience, along with our audio stream, compliments of WGAD.net in Central New York. Clark Sexton is our guest next week. Born and raised in Eastern Kentucky, Clark is a singer, writer, multi-instrumentalist. He's a music producer, and he has made his mark on stages across this country. Though he lives and works in Nashville currently, he's always out and about playing the region and winning fans everywhere he lands. Next week, Clark will play songs new and old, as he is doing on the road now with Nolan Taylor. He just released a song called The Light, and I spoke with him just a couple days ago, and he urged me to tell you to check it out and let him know what you think. He'd love to hear your comments about it. Join us for Clark Sexton then next week in studio and on Red Barn Radio's live stream, 7 p.m. Eastern in North America. Red Barn Radio, listen to the live. Back to tonight's Red Barn Radio program. We welcome you live on our social media platforms, broadcasting from the Arts Place Performance Hall here in the grand city of Lexington, Kentucky. And now let's welcome back Jacob Perez for some more music. Still.
I thought you were a giant, you were a boy with a sling. But when I came of age, I realized we had different enemies. Ears laid to the ground, I was watching where you tread. If this ever comes to blows, I'll wear that armor in your stead. Lay me down in that valley, settle me in that grave. I went to war like a shepherd boy whose heart was more naive than brave. There ain't no country for me, darling. I'll be damned if I try to stay. Lay me down in that valley, I'll rise up out of that grave. Hey, that small town little village was a monumental trope that got statuettes of small town dreams and middle American hopes. I laid waste to the idols they erected door to door. I'm shaking dust off my bare feet. I don't belong here anymore. Lay me down in that valley, settle me in that grave. I went to war like a shepherd boy whose heart was more naive than brave. There ain't no country for me, darling. I'll be damned if I try to stay. Lay me down in that valley, I'll rise up out of that grave. Hey, ears laid to the ground, I was watching where you tread. If this ever comes to blows, I'll wear that armor in your stead. I laid waste to the idols they erected door to door. I'm shaking dust off my bare feet. I don't belong here anymore. Lay me down in that valley, settle me in that grave. I went to war like a shepherd boy whose heart was more naive than brave. There ain't no country for me, darling. I'll be damned if I try to stay. Lay me down in that valley, I'll rise up out of that grave. Hey. Thanks, y'all. This next song is called Lost Cause. It has a lot to do with like my early adulthood, and by the time I was like 19, I felt like I'd already kind of experienced profound professional failure in my life, which is a good place to start, I think. If you start at the bottom, it's all, uphill from there. Headed to Nashville, hungover. Dallas in my rearview mirror. I met my uncle in West Memphis. Talked about his book over a beer. I didn't know that when I came home, try to burn me at the stake. I packed my desk bitter-hearted, a pariah, a mistake. And all this time I was looking at you, bent over backwards, trying to prove that I'm not a lost cause. I'm not a lost cause. Back to college in August, struggling to pay my way. Rent due on the first kept me honest, and I Couple good friends kept me safe. I burned my knuckles on a flat top. Closed the kitchen around 10. Reading Nietzsche until 2 a.m. Wake up and do it all again. And all this time I was looking at you, bent over backwards, trying to prove that I'm not a lost cause. I am not a lost cause. I failed a class or two and dropped out. I spend my nights behind the bar. Well, I don't know why it all shook out like it did, but here we are. And all this time I was looking at you, bent over backwards, trying to prove that I'm not a lost cause. I'm not a lost cause. Thanks, y'all. This next one is a new song. It's not released yet. It's about a couple of different artists and kind of the various paths that they took to kind of being the people that we know them as. When you're kind of in this creative life, I think it's good to be aware that there's so many different paths to take, and there's no real prescription as long as you're happy with, your life. So the song is called Bill Withers. Vic Chestnut wrote a song about Lucinda in 1990. He had no idea about car wheels or everything that she would be. Some folks have a way of knowing what's coming down the line. And for once, I have the feeling that everything will be just fine. Bill Withers spent a decade in the Navy. And then he busted his ass in a factory. When ain't no sunshine was a radio hit. was working a day job that he refused to quit. There's so many ways to live a life. And for once, I have the feeling that everything will be just fine. Thanks, y'all.
All right. Well, that was an interesting tune. I like that.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't usually write in minor keys, so it's kind of fun to get out there a little bit.
Yeah, it was very different from the other things you've done, and was interesting to me that how you chose to sort of focus on Bill. Did you see a documentary about Bill Withers or something that triggered that? Or?
No, honestly, it started. The song started with the verse about Vic Chestnut, and I was listening to one of his records, and he had a song on there called Lucinda Williams, and it was years before she was like kind of ubiquitous. Car Wheels came out in 1998, the song was on a record in 1990, so I was like very curious about that. And I had read Lucinda Williams' biography shortly before that, and I'd kind of realized that like she was working in a grocery store until she was like 42. And it's like we just all think of Lucinda as like songwriter royalty now, but it's kind of like, dude, like she was in it for a long time before she ever really saw any reward come of that. And so I actually decided to kind of do a little digging on like late bloomers, and Bill Withers was a notable one. And I just thought it was so poignant that like when he really made it, he didn't believe it, and he was like, I don't care, like I still got to go to work tomorrow. Ain't No Sunshine was #1, and he was like, I got to go clock in tomorrow, so.
And he was also a guy, I mean, what I also know about Bill Withers is that he's a guy who was uncompromising.
Yeah, I mean, he like the vision that he had for his own work, and he was pretty singular, and he's just a real like working man's musician,
Yeah.
So yeah.
And he chose, I think, to pull out of music long before he really needed to.
Yeah.
I think he just got sick of all the garbage and just said, forget it.
Yeah.
I'm happy.
I think that, he made the things that he wanted to make, and he didn't feel like, he wasn't hanging his hat on it, And so I kind of want to have that same, like, I can't live or die on this thing, like, sure, this is the way that I want to live my life, but also I cannot let it be like, this is how I feel about myself, whether this is good or bad kind of affects my self-perception. I'm just like, you know what, like, if I have to have a day job my whole life, and cool, like, I'll do it.
You're not going to write songs like the songs you're writing now if you start to think of it that way.
Yeah.
If you start to think of it as like, this is who I am and nobody else.
Yeah. I feel like
won't.
I had kind of a period of time where I really had kind of started, it was after my first record came out, and I was like, it didn't change my life, I was like, oh man, like, no, like 7 people have listened to this record, and I let myself really like get down, and like I was like, I found myself like counting heads at shows of people. I was like, how many people did I get to come out to this show? And finally I just had to like take a break. I was like, you know what, like I don't feel good, like I don't, like this isn't good for me if I'm thinking about it this way. And so I took like 6 months off of planned shows, and ended up writing what became Signs. All the songs that I had written up to that point in that period of like feeling kind of bad about myself were kind of whiny songs, and I don't think they were really like telling the truth about anything, So yeah.
What was the professional failure that you had by the time you were 19?
So I mean,
you referred to that.
I was already kind of coming out of, already kind of on my way out of like the religious world. But I coming out of high school, I was working in a church, and did not really fit the mold belief-wise as far as what they kind of wanted from me. And it was just a group of people that really couldn't handle any sort of dissenting opinion or discussion. And so I was kind of pushed out. And in hindsight, I talk about it as like a professional failure. And that's a bit of a euphemism. Like it wasn't my fault, you know. It was kind of just, I don't really chalk any of that up to who like I am as a person. But it felt that way when I was 19 years old. I was like, I'd moved across the country to take this job, and like this was my whole community. And all of a sudden, like my life was kind of just like turned upside down, and I was like, oh, cool. Like I was frying chips at Chipotle 2 weeks later, you know, like that. Like I was like, this is, I had felt like because it felt like a dream job at the time, but there were so many kind of struggles around, just like not really fitting in. So, yeah.
Huh. Yeah, I was just reading excerpt from this book that's out recently. I think I know that the term unchurching is used in the title, but it's about that phenomenon that has more and more people sort of exiting the church. Yeah. Not necessarily because of a crisis of faith. Yeah. But just because they're feeling that the church doesn't really allow them to be who they are within that faith.
Yeah, and I think that's what a lot of it was about for me, is like, here's this institution that says they want to like look out for me and take care of me. But it was kind of very conditional, and I was just like, okay, that doesn't really seem to line up with how we're talking about things, you know. There's all this like, oh, like the unconditional love of God, this and that, but when it comes to actually having to, you know, put legs to what you're talking about, that, you know, I find for most people it's not there. Yeah. So.
Right. So in your songs, there's just thinking about the song, the Shaking Dust tune. Yeah. You know, I hear there's this imagery in your tunes. As I was saying to you earlier, there's biblical imagery. Yeah. And there's addiction imagery. Right. Yeah. Yeah. So can you talk some about those two things? I guess we've talked enough about the biblical imagery. We know where that's coming from. What about the addiction imagery? Where's that coming from? And is that out of sort of your own experience, or is this about others in our society?
No, it has a lot to do with me, and I had a really unhealthy relationship with alcohol. Like as a young, I wouldn't call myself an alcoholic because like I still drink and can drink in moderation, but like it was growing up, we were like teetotalers. Like nobody in my family drank alcohol, so there was not any sort of like good model for me in how to relate to substances, you know. And so when I kind of was on my own and had this freedom that I could be like, you know, sure, I can go out and drink, or I can like, you know, it just got out of hand really fast. Yeah, at 18, you know, by the time I was 21, I'd gotten it all out of my system, you know. I'd made a lot of poor choices and shot myself in the foot early on in my adulthood, and yeah, I mean that's a lot of what Get Well, the song and the record, just has a lot to do with me kind of like being realizing that I wanted to change the way I was living my life. And so yeah. And so who is asking, a question I wrote down on my paper here was, who is it that's asking the addict to get well in that song? I think it can kind of be interpreted however you want it to be. For me, it was, you know, my partner and my community and my friends, who are kind of like, I never was like having an intervention moment, but like I had a lot of people that were looking out for me when I wasn't looking out for myself. And, you know, those conversations around that for me were kind of helping me realize that like, oh, like you can't do this forever, you know, you can't like just get up and drink to fuel your day. Like it, you know, there's a lot more to life than numbing things out. And that's what it was about. I had experienced a lot of I mean, talking about like the, young professional failure in my life, but I had a lot of stuff that I was unpacking too that, I just didn't want to deal with. So I think that's where kind of at the end of Get Well, I have this line that says, where I say, I'll face up to the mountains that stand in my way. And just for me, like, I want to like live life with like my whole chest, like I'm going to experience everything, and I'm going to like look it in the face, and I'm not going to run away from it,
Yeah. Can you talk a little bit about the song "Things You Forget," which a song I also really liked,
Thank
and
you.
I really like that. Hard to feel grief over what you forget.
Yeah. Yeah, I think, in a similar vein, like, I was like spending a lot of my young adulthood trying to kind of get away from things in my young life. And it was this kind of thing I think I learned because we were so transient that I could just kind of drop everything and like kind of about face. And when we moved to a new place, like I don't have to think about anything that happened behind me, So for me, through all of my like young life, I just kind of never had close relationships with like extended family, and like we were moving so much, so like I only had a handful of friendships that I kind of took with me into adulthood. And so Things You Forget was again like kind of about that impulse that I have to kind of like not think about things that have happened in the past, or think about relationships that I'm leaving behind. So yeah.
And so can you talk a little bit about your, I don't know, so your professional plans, your career plans, and what's your are you strategizing a little bit about how to, for instance, get this new collection of songs more visible?
Yeah.
Can you take a set of songs like the kinds of songs that you've played here tonight, which are deeply reflective, and play them out in the kinds of venues that will draw in 150 people? Or
I toured last year for the first time. I feel like I have a real like cool grassroots thing going on in Cincy. I've been there for a long time now, and I feel like I have a lot of people who come out and support me at shows, and I'm still kind of at the point where like I know every face in every crowd, when I'm playing. Like it's just a room full of my friends and people that I love. I took I took this show on the road last year, and plan to tour pretty heavily this year, and have kind of made some adjustments in my professional life to kind of accommodate that. Outside of playing music, like I have to have a day job. And
what do you do?
Until next Thursday, I work in wine distribution, actually. And now I'm kind of going back to working in restaurants to kind of be able to come and go.
In what capacity? As a waiter or server?
Bartender, as a server.
Okay. Sure.
So this year I kind of plan to play about 30 or 40 dates on the road. I've got a tour coming up in March and April with a band called Kin & Company. They're out of Northwest Arkansas, and so we're going to be touring, kind of taking a line down to like Fayetteville. We're going to be playing in St. Louis. We're going to play some dates in Texas. We're playing in San Antonio, which is where I'm from, and I haven't been there in 10 years, so it's going to be a really fun kind of homecoming show of sorts.
What's Kin & Company like?
Kin & Company, they play. They're kind of going through an interesting transition right now, because they're kind of like, they've put out like 5 records already, and they're my age, so they're really prolific, and their stuff is very like indie rock, kind of alternative. It feels like their sound is really going towards bands kind of like The National, with like really like verby guitars, and like I think their lyrics are really thoughtful, and I feel like they have some really like incredible songs that they kind of put this whole full band sound behind, which is really cool.
Are they going to put that full band sound behind you and your songs?
No, we haven't really talked about it. because they live so far away, they are kind of like my dream band that I would love to have behind me, because I know all these guys so well, and I feel like we're all kind of speaking the same language when we're working on stuff together. Jonah, who's in Kin and Company, he's the front man and one of the kind of principal songwriters. He's produced all my stuff. So like we've worked on a couple records together, and we've to this day not played a show together. I haven't played a show with Kin and Company. I've actually played with another one of his bands. But yeah, so I mean, it's really fun to kind of like get to do something collaborative with people that you love. I would love for them eventually to like one day maybe like back me up on, because I would like to take the full band thing on the road at some point too.
And if you were to do that, it would be with this group of folks that you know.
Yeah.
And who sort of, you have that sort of kinship with
yeah,
them.
Well,
Right.
kinship, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, they'd kind of be my first choice for sure.
Nice.
Yeah.
Well, it sounds like an exciting year you have coming up.
Yeah, I think so.
And you have you have a partner who supports what you do. And does she also play music?
Yeah, Haley, my partner, is a horn player. She plays French horn. She plays trumpet. If you actually go and listen to my most recent release, Signs, she's playing trumpet on Blacktop, and we often play like live together, which is cool. She couldn't be here tonight. I think it would have been a lot of fun to. I really like
we
playing
would
with
have
her.
loved. We would have enjoyed meeting her, and that
Yeah.
doesn't mean it couldn't happen another time.
Yeah.
Does she also sing? Is that her singing background vocals on you in the duets that I heard?
No, she hasn't sang on any of my records, but we do sing together a lot, and we've actually kind of started talking about like her kind of coming on to do some more like live stuff with me, because I always, as a solo performer now, I'm like, okay, like what are ways that I can like fill out my sound a little bit, but also I just like playing with other people, and yeah, so I mean Haley's my best friend and my partner, and you know, any chance that we can play music together and sing together, I think it's really, really great. So.
All right. Thanks for being with us. I'm glad there's more music to go. We have Jacob Perez here on Red Barn Radio tonight. Jacob is from Cincinnati, and he has been good enough this evening to come down here and play a really great solo show from his two albums, 22 and 23 releases. Welcome back, Jacob Perez.
Thanks, y'all. This next song is called Foolish. It's about seasonal depression. Feels apt given that we just came off a week of 7-degree lows and stuff like that. This time of year my life comes to a standstill. I just work my job and pay my rent on time. It's dark before the rush hour traffic's faded. It's cold enough to set the beer outside. Can you remember me when I was still foolish? Fool enough to sweat over a dream. Well, I've no time anymore for that sort of thing. Let's rearrange this whole entire apartment. It's the cheapest way to make a change of scene. You pull all of the junk out of the closets, dusting off keepsakes and memories. Remember when I spoke to you in poems? Back when these songs would write themselves. Forgive me for forgetting to make my love be felt. I've been told this winter might be brutal. Farmer's almanac, it never lies. They got 5 feet in Buffalo on Friday, so I guess our burden's relatively light. Remember when I said I'd leave Ohio? I'm not much good at follow through, and I'm not going anywhere unless you're coming too. Thanks, y'all. I think a lot of people, when they first get into writing songs, you start because you're trying to work some stuff out emotionally. And that was true for me, and a lot of my early work is like kind of sad, and it's a little bit of a bummer. And at some point, I decided, I was like, I wonder if it would be cool to like write songs from a place of joy and gratitude, because I'd gotten to a place in my life where I was like, I don't really feel sad, you know. I feel like things are going well, and I'm happy to be here. So this song was kind of my first attempt at like writing something joyful. It's called Adrift. Brutal sincerity, I've had no eyes to see that I'm not the keeper of all that's good, all truth and honesty. In my youth I built a wall, formidable mountain tall. You marched around again and again, praying fall. So leave the iron gates to the rich, to the church and the government, and set me adrift on a river wide. Leave me at the hands of a merciful tide. A kind epiphany that life is long and sweet, and tough as a fighter in the 15th round, still standing on both feet. But control is scarcely found, it's a poison to be flushed out, and power's a lie on the tongues of thieves. It's an ugly awful sound. Leave the iron gates to the rich, to the church and the government, and set me adrift on a river wide. Or leave me at the hands of a merciful tide. I've got nothing to prove, no fights to win or lose. I'll lie under a tree all afternoon, 'cause I've got nothing to prove. You can break me open like a borrowed tune, 'cause I've got nothing to prove. Leave the iron gates to the rich, to the church and the government, and set me adrift on a river wide. Leave me at the hands of a merciful tide. Thanks, y'all. My heart feels older than these trees, younger than the flowers underneath. I've got good years and bad years hidden in these rings, and desperate dreams stored in little seeds. I'm working up an appetite, working up my courage, working on getting somewhere I could settle down. If you could keep me honest, I could keep you company, and we could plant a garden in this God-forsaken ground. I've lost my taste for fighting every fight, looking for something I can't find. I've lost my taste for wasting every single night, wasted 'cause I can't get right. I'm working up an appetite, working up my courage, working on getting somewhere I could settle down. If you could keep me honest, I could keep you company, and we could plant a garden in this God-forsaken ground. Honey, would you look me in the eye? Something good is finally on our side. I'd brave any mountain if you're on the other side. I'd brave any darkness for your light. Oh, I'd brave any darkness for your light. I'm working up an appetite, working up my courage, working on getting somewhere I could settle down. If you could keep me honest, I could keep you company, and we could plant a garden in this God-forsaken ground. Thanks so much, y'all.
Well, there are many people to thank for our program. First, Jacob Perez, our guest this evening. We are ever grateful for our volunteers and staff who make our production happen each and every week. We want to thank all of you for listening to our webcast, watching us on social media, and those listening to us on the network of Red Barn radio stations and media worldwide. Thanks to WEKU, Red Barn's premier radio partner, Central and Eastern Kentucky's radio news leader. You can listen online at weku.org. It's your chance to hear more great live music from Red Barn Radio and WEKU. That's NPR for Central and Eastern Kentucky. Hey, those of you here in the Central Kentucky area, you got to be sure to check out Red Barn TV. It's our weekly program of music, now on ABC 36 WTVQ. Red Barn Radio comes to you from our home, the Arts Place Performance Hall in downtown Lexington, Kentucky. Our website has updates and further information on our guests and our program. We're on the web at redbarnradio.com. And now, before we close out tonight's program, I wonder if we might get Jacob Perez to grace us with one more number.
Absolutely.
That'd be great, Jacob.
Thanks so much, y'all. This song is called Gold, and it's a little ode to friendship. Just yesterday we were drinking out that bar on 13th after we closed down, talking and laughing like we were old friends. How lucky, how rare, thank God that life ain't fair. Cut through my armor, drawing blood. You opened my eyes to the road I shunned. When I thought I would break, you showed me how to bend. How lucky, how rare, thank God that life ain't fair. When you get back to Bentonville, I hope you plant flowers in your windowsill. Get up every morning and watch the sun come up. I hope all that you touch turns to gold. I hope you keep coming into your own. Mercy on mercy poured into your cup. How lucky, how rare, thank God that life ain't fair. Thanks so much, y'all.
Well, that's all for our show for this week, but you can see and hear Red Barn Radio worldwide as we stream live on the web, on YouTube, Facebook, and Twitch, Wednesdays, 7 p.m. Eastern, in North America. You can also listen to archive performances on all of your favorite media streaming platforms. Hey, remember, every like, comment, share, and subscribe helps bring Roots Music Southern Style to your neck of the woods. Now, from all of us here at Red Barn Radio to all of our friends worldwide, keep working together to be safe and healthy. And until next time, good night from Red Barn Radio.